Welcome back to Dear Creator. This is solo entry number 2. And if you haven't seen or listened to the previous solo entry, this is a recap of the month. I'll share some reflections in hopes that provide some insight or value to you. And that is especially if you are a creative, a creator, or founder. And of course, I'll sprinkle in some monthly favorites. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube or on any of the podcast platforms that you may be listening to this on. It's honestly super appreciated and it helps others find these conversations who need to hear them. So let's get into it. So, if February had a theme, I'd say it was slow momentum in a fast month. This month goes by so fast all the time. I mean, culturally and with events around the world, there's so much going on. I mean, there's so many experiences and celebrations and traditions that happen. And not to mention, it's like the shortest month of the year. So it does feel really fast. But for me, it honestly was fun. I did a lot throughout this month in a short period of time. But honestly, it also felt a bit overwhelming and then a little bit scattered. I kind of just felt a little bit all over the place. But underneath all of that, I feel like there's been like some slow momentum building. And essentially, what that looks like is me detangling a bunch of ideas and goals and things that I want to achieve in the next month. When I went to a February, brand new month, I was just coming back from a San Diego trip with my friends. And I don't know about you, but when I come back from a trip, I just need to rest. It's like you have the vacation after the vacation, and that's exactly how I felt. So the day after I got back, I completely rested and just let myself rejuvenate with energy. But whenever I step away from my business for a little bit, I feel like I do get a lot of inspiration. I get a lot of ideas and things that I'm just like circling around in my head. And so when it was time to get a little bit more structured so I could get shit done, that's where I was like, wow, this is so messy. I am so chaotic right now. I feel so scattered. What the heck do I do? So it's just like giving myself that time to basically like look at all of the things that I want to do and prioritize moving forward. I'm going to be honest, it was a little bit difficult to get back into the flow of things. I feel like throughout the entire month, I was just trying to get back into the flow of things because January was such a high energy month for me. I was consistent with Dear Creator episodes, I was consistent with my content. I was consistent with planning and like getting just shit done and doing the things that I need to do and to show up every day. There were also a lot of like lifestyle moments. So we celebrated my mom's 60th birthday, and me and my partner did a lot of different things for Valentine's Day this year, which isn't an every year thing. Sometimes we don't do anything for Valentine's Day, but this year felt really special. So we did a lot of that as well and celebrated our love. But between social activities and spending a lot of time outside, because this month has been really nice, not like a typical February in the Chicago suburbs, and just like living my life, I actually found a lot of inspiration and motivation. And that's something that I believe is that when you're living your life and socializing with your friends or spending time with your family, doing hobbies, getting into that workout class you've always wanted to do, that's where you get the most inspiration and ideas. I don't think that you get a lot of ideas or you don't really move forward when you're just sitting in front of your screen all day. So, because of all of this reflection and just like a little bit of that scatteredness, coming back into the flow of things, trying to get more structure, I've developed a goals list. Do you know how they say, like, choose 3 top things that you want to achieve? But I'm an ambitious girly and I cannot just choose 3. So, as I was like, detangling all of these ideas and inspiration that I had after my San Diego trip, I created this list. So my current goals are like figuring out the future of this podcast, Dear Creator. I have some ideas around how it could potentially be a publication or some sort of media more than just like a podcast, but making either a community out of it or having articles come out that are more than just a recap of the guests who come on here. I'm really not sure what that is going to look like, but I'm starting to brainstorm what it could be. though, because it's not like a fully fleshed out idea, it's just on my goals list, though it's not a high priority. And then if you know about me and my philosophy around soft pivot, or if you don't know, it's where I help entrepreneurs and creators pivot intentionally in their business with low risk shifts over time to build a scalable or sustainable business that basically fuels their life. And how I see it is that you don't have to start anything over or from scratch to change things up. I used to help people with this one on one. I also had a group program, and it's just become like this methodology that I've become known for, and what I've even seen other people have conversations about, which is really cool. But I've shifted it so many different times to really figure out what I wanted to use it for. And eventually I came to the conclusion that I think I want to build like an e commerce shop for resources, templates, tools, frameworks, workshops, anything that can help entrepreneurs do it themselves. And so, with that idea, I feel like that's a pretty high priority goal. And I thought it could be interesting to create a YouTube series on how I'm going to be building it, like really bring you behind the scenes of how I build that storefront for Soft Pivot. And something that I've also been playing around with is the fact that like Soft Pivot is a personalized approach. Yes, it's like a methodology. There's principles, there are frameworks that I teach and like help people through. Though it's adaptable to your situation. And I think I think a lot of the time people need to figure it out for themselves as well. I think where people struggle the most, where it's really helpful to get the one-on-one support, is when they have tasks done for them, or they have the coaching to push them towards their goal, to keep them accountable, and to like ideate and brainstorm. But when it comes to it, the actual pivot themselves, it is up to them on what they want that to be and what they want it to look like. So having resources, frameworks, workshops, templates, tools, and products to help them figure what that actually looks like, I think will be really beneficial. And so, where the YouTube series comes in, I think I'm going to be working on building out the storefront in March and launching it in April or end of May. And I would really like to bring people on YouTube, my subscribers, or anybody in this community along for the journey, because it seems like there's a lot of building and public content, but I feel like a lot of people kind of beat around the bush when it comes to showing the process and like how they've achieved their goals. And I think in a way it's because they're trying to activate some sort of emotion to their audience so their audience buys something from them. And I mean, that's a strategic way of making sales, obviously, but I've always been somebody who really admires the people who actually takes us through the journey and shares the ups and downs, shares the failures, shares the wins, everything. And that's who I kind of want to be when I show up as well, and like try to paint the picture of the possibility for somebody who also might want to build a storefront. And like, I don't know much about e commerce, I don't know much about building an online shop. And so I'll be learning and sharing and doing all at once. And that's kind of just like who I am. I love to experiment, I love to test, I love to refine, and I love to share. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you're subscribed on YouTube. I'm really excited about this series. I've planned out about 7 posts so far, and I've been using a lot of advice from Grace Andrews. I think she recently just did a Q&A about how to keep people engaged or interested in your videos and help them keep following for more and stuff like that. And so I've been taking some of her advice on just like kind of foreshadowing what the next video is going to be about. And so it really just makes sense as a series and like a process that I'm going through. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. So stay tuned. Another goal of mine is developing my one-on-one consulting offer called Momentous. Now, I used to be the type of person who's like, this offer like your offers have to be super specific and productized, and I believe that to an extent, but because of my self pivot philosophy and methodology of how I've been helping people in the past pivot their businesses or offers and marketing, I believe that this momentous offer could really be personalized to whoever needs that one on one support. And I really want it to be a hands on experience where I'm like your business partner and collaborator and help you like get shit done because pivoting is a lot. So I think if anything that's going to be valuable, it's to have some maybe like VIP days or sprints where I actually am like in your business helping you do things, whether that's content planning or setting up systems in your offer suite and things like that. I think that could really help build that momentum. And that's where that that name kind of comes up. It's like it's momentous. It's like a pretty big significant change. And it reminds me of the word momentum because I think that's what a lot of people struggle with when it comes to a pivot. Like we could get really stuck in our heads. We can question our direction, but when you have that other person to like share ideas back and forth with, it really does make a huge difference. But an even bigger difference is when you have the help to cross things off that task list because you have to do a lot of work. It just is a big project in itself. So I think just being that person to help you and like support you in that evolution era of your business and life, I think could go a long way. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. It will be more of like it would probably be my highest ticket offer that I decide to sell. And it will probably be for a very specific type of person as well. Like they already know what they want to pivot, they just have to like take action. I've been thinking about this offer for a long time, though I think the reason why I haven't like fully launched it yet is because I'm still trying to see and strategize how it all works out within like the soft pivot methodology and storefront as well. So I think Momentous, like even though I don't have a sales page, even though I don't have much of a structure to it, because it's personalized, I think even if somebody reached out to me right now, I could build a personalized consulting plan for them, whether they choose to work with me for 5 weeks or 12 weeks. So, yeah, if you already know what you want to pivot into, or you want to pivot your offers, or you need to pivot your marketing strategy and build some systems around that, don't hesitate to reach out. Even if I don't have a sales page right now, I am available for that support and we can build something that makes sense for you and like your energy and your goals and like what you want to achieve. Another thing that I've been talking about for the longest time, but I haven't fully committed yet is pitching brands for UGC and growing my TikTok. I recently got 1 million views on a super random video that I posted, which is like the only Colleen Hoover book that I wish that I could read for the first time. But I got 1 million views on that, and I think I posted it in like October and it like blew up, and I've been getting likes and follows from it for the longest time. And because of that, some people have reached out for gifted collaborations and stuff like that. And I really like the content that I've been posting on TikTok. It hasn't been as consistent as like me showing up on YouTube or showing up for this podcast or even on Instagram and things like that. But it's been fun because I've been like able to share more of like my style or personality or just like the way that I think, or some of it is like humorous and like comical, but it's interesting when you like share those parts of yourself and you kind of get rewarded. And so because I have had a lot of these things happen, I feel like the universe is kind of telling me something, and we'll probably get into that a bit, but I have slowly started getting into UGC, I guess. I did a gifted brand collab with a local business last December, November, and that video has like over 100,000 views and things like that. So I feel like I have the credibility and obviously the skills because I'm a content creator, but there is a little bit of imposter syndrome or just lack of direction on like what makes sense, and trying to find that through line between like what I do for like marketing and business strategy versus like content creation for brands. I did start downloading some UGC platforms. I think it could be a nice like little side hustle and like just a slow way of getting into that field or that area of interest. And my last goal is to network locally. I mean, it's like the beginning of the year still, so I feel like I haven't like lacked in this department that much, but I want to network locally, meet more business owners who are in the surrounding areas and see if there's any potential of collaboration, partnership, or even like work. I've also been given the advice to check out Chamber of Commerce like in my area. I think you have to pay to be like part of that or something, but I just remember like over the summer like going to the farmers market and meeting the vendors and things like that. I feel like there's so much potential, especially because I do marketing and I do business. And I think just meeting more people, it could open up a lot more possibilities. And there's more of a connection or just realness to meeting people in real life versus online. Online, it's easy to connect to people, but I was sharing in a group call with some other entrepreneurs that I think a lot of people feel like they're like mutuals when they're following each other on social media, but then they don't really know each other. And I think a lot of people, not everybody obviously, but they're more hesitant to get on calls because they don't want to be pitched to, which that kind of sucks that people think that, oh, this person's asking me to get on a coffee chat. Like they're probably going to pitch me their services. That just sucks that people assume that, but that just means that there's been enough incidences where that has happened to them. But that's never the case for me. I typically love to just like connect and get to know people. And recently, just like getting out of the house and working with my one on one client locally, I've been really pulled to just be in person more. And I think that's just like a really fun place to be because I'm really not that much of a homebody, but because of the pandemic and the last 5 years of running my business from home, I kind of became a homebody, but I feel like this new sense of confidence, like just more energy and social energy to meet other people as I've been like out and about, and it just like makes me want to be more out and about. So those are all of my goals, and like my high priority goals are building the soft pivot series and the soft pivot storefront. Though I think with that, I will be developing my consulting offer because I really want to get my website done. My website is like in progress. That's why it's not on my goals list. But I think with that, I'll probably be building my Momentous consulting offer as well. So yeah, February, just looking back at it, I feel like because it's such a short month, it can feel like I didn't get anything done because that's kind of how I feel. I feel like I wrote out my goals list and that's all I've achieved, but it's a short month. And, you know, there is that quote that's like progress over perfection or progress is better than perfection. But at the same time too, like I believe like progress doesn't always look productive, but you are being productive because you can rest, you can live your life, you can like plan and observe or just like get inspiration, and that's productive. That's going to fuel your business. That's going to help your brand and your goals overall because creatives and entrepreneurs, they need time to think. They need time to imagine. They need imagination. I think Patti Smith literally said that in an interview that she did. Like, I think she said something about like just go sit on a bench in a park without your phone, don't scroll, don't listen to anything, and just observe because it's good for the brain, it's good for your creativity, and it's good for the soul. So yeah, I feel like I'm starting to get into more of like a building phase. There are like multiple phases or stages of a business. Like you have building, you have maintenance, you have growing. And I feel like in February, I've been more at like a maintenance phase. And now I'm starting to step into a building phase. And that fluctuates like for every business and through different seasons or different years, quarters, whatever. So I'm excited to see how that all comes together. This month, I also started working more closely with a one on one client who I've been working with since the end of last year or end of July of last year. And basically, that's because I have some money goals that I want to achieve faster and like easier, I guess. So I've increased my involvement with working with them, which has forced me to adapt a bit. And I might be a broken record. I may have said this before or 100 times before, but adaptability is such an important skill to have, especially as an entrepreneur. And interestingly enough, I feel like increasing my time working with them throughout the week has kind of like triggered some mindset stuff because as I see it is like I kind of did this all backwards. Traditionally, or maybe just more commonly, we see people become content creators as like a side hustle or a passion, and then they build their business and go full time into it. But I started my business in the pandemic over 5 years ago now. And so I started my business, I got clients, and then I started creating content. So this kind of feels like I'm going backwards, and it kind of like pops up some questions like, did I fail at my business? Is this even for me? Did I avoid doing something that would have helped me get from A to B faster in a better way? But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not burning anything down. I'm not starting over. I'm literally just adapting. And whenever I've adapted, my income has never suffered. But when I stay in the same place that's not working, it has. So adaptation has never hurt me. And so I'm trying to release a lot of that mindset stuff that is just like constantly coming up for me as I increase my time with my client so I can make money goals faster. But I'm also staying structured with a little bit of flexibility so I can also work on my own brand, kind of like how content creators typically start. Recently, I wrote on Instagram about how underneath my professional titles like marketing and business strategist, I'm really just like a content creator, not just a content creator, but I am a content creator. And I realized that I've always kind of felt uncomfortable saying that because of like the professionalism part, even though I don't think professionalism really, I mean, it exists, but it's like a social construct. But me trying to embody this professionalism, I feel like it's really made my content and made me like feel like I've been like super robotic or scripted or just like honestly sometimes inauthentic. And I really want to change that. Maybe others don't really see me in that way. And I think we are our biggest critics. But I think it's important to look back at your content and see like, do you get the ick? Like, do you get cringed out? And it's not because you're on camera or like you're hearing your voice, but it's like how it's coming across. Like, would you watch your own content? And so I like to do those little audits sometimes to just see like how I feel about the content that I'm creating. And this honestly, like this feels authentic to me. I'm not like reading a script. I have an outline that I keep looking at, of course, just to make sure that I'm on track, but I'm just letting myself talk freely. And I think sometimes that just like is better. Like, don't overthink it, don't overplan it, don't overscript it. And I think it works for some people, but recently I found out that I'm an open throat in my human design. And sometimes I really like to talk and it's best to not overplan things. And then sometimes I'm like really quiet and like don't really have anything to say. I'm just like observing or waiting for like an invitation to talk or something. But yeah, I am not really proud of like the short form content that I've created besides on TikTok because it's a little bit more authentic to me and like my personality and who I just am as like a creative and human. But in March, I am thinking about doing a challenge that Donovan Barrett, and what he basically says is like, when you feel inspired to talk about something, just show up and talk about it. Just put your camera up and talk to the camera and then post it. And I think that's really scary because it's like less polished, less performative, less perfect. But I feel like it'll help me show up more like me. So yeah, it'll be a little bit more experimental, but we'll see how it goes. So make sure that you're following me on Instagram or TikTok to see what that looks like. Okay, so I could not film the entire episode in one take. So I'm on a different day, different outfit, and we have Leia behind me if you're watching the video. But let's get into the second half, which is February favorites. I like to categorize them between lifestyle and business. So we'll start with business. What actually worked for my business? These things might not feel like very astronomical, but it does help with like that slow momentum that I was talking about with like the entire theme of February. So, one of the first things that I'd like to mention is creating a master content calendar instead of having multiple different pages in my Notion. So, I use Notion for content planning and strategizing, brainstorming, all of that for content and my entire business and some things for my life. Though I had multiple different pages in a database for each platform that I post on, because I don't post just on YouTube, I don't just post on Instagram. I have more of like a content ecosystem going, or is what I'm hoping to create and build. And so when I had all of these different pages, it was creating a lot of like scatteredness. I feel like something that was in like my what didn't work bucket for my business was losing the plot. I feel like sometimes I'm talking about a lot of different things at once. And so I believe having one master content calendar where I can see the conversations and topics that I'm having online and in my videos, my podcast episodes, on my Instagram, in my emails is going to help me stick to the plot. So basically, what I did was create a calendar database in Notion, and in the template of like creating a page in the database, I have a feature where I can segment like what platform is this going to be posted on. I also have something for like, is it for Dear Creator? Is it for Soft Pivot? Is it for my personal Instagram? Another thing is like, what format is it? Is it long form writing? Is it a long form video? Is it voiceover, Instagram reel, things like that to help me organize everything. And then once I have like a newsletter on the calendar and 3 Instagram posts and then a podcast episode, I can see it all from a bird's eye view. And this has really helped me see everything in that ecosystem visual. But when I'm focusing on just creating Instagram content, or I'm just focused on creating Dear Creator content, I need to just see that or I get very distracted. So, in order for me to just see the visual of one project at a time, so let's say Dear Creator, the podcast, I have different database views on that calendar that I can switch between from to just see Dear Creator podcast episodes. I could just click on the Instagram filter where I only see the Instagram posts that I'm posting. So that has been really helpful. And I feel like that's been really working with just getting back into things and detangling all of my ideas, like I said before, and just like getting into the flow of things again. So, yeah, like with what didn't work, it was losing the plot. But I think this naturally happened because I stepped away from my business for a little bit. I was in a flow and then I completely like just like cut that off by going on a trip and taking some time to ease my way back into content creation and marketing and business and all of that stuff. So, not sticking to the plot, my audience might not feel like I've lost the plot or I'm talking about a lot of different things, but I feel that way. So, just trying to get organized in that sense with my content marketing and in my Notion boards has been really helpful. I think another thing that wasn't really working in February was trying to do too much. I just explained like my entire goals list to you, and that's a lot of goals that can take some time to achieve. So, trying to focus on one or two of those things instead of all of them at once, I think is going to be way more productive for me in March. Some curiosities or experiments, I guess, in my business has been researching UGC content creators and seeing what platforms they use to try to get more partnerships and collabs. So I've been downloading a lot of different applications for UGC creators and content creators to connect with brands and businesses and promote their products or work with them or even just like get gifted things. So there are a lot of apps on my phone right now that I'm trying to create profiles of my work, of who I am, my vision, like how I want to help businesses and brands in the UGC department. But I haven't fully set myself up for it yet. Now, on to some lifestyle things. I've been doing some things this month to really just like improve my life. One of the things that's always been super helpful, and we've been doing actually for a few months, but I wanted to give it an honorable mention, is ordering groceries ahead of time. I will order groceries through an app from a local grocery store and will typically pick the groceries up between like Sunday and Monday. There's nothing more stressful to me than looking in the fridge or in our pantry to see that we don't have an ingredient for something and then having to go to the store during a busy week. So, ordering groceries ahead of time has really, one, helped me like plan ahead and what we're going to eat. So, if we're more on like a health kick and want to make sure that we eat healthy, nutritious meals, I can plan that ahead. But another thing that's been really nice is we kind of expect how much it's going to be. Yes, we kind of have to pay for a little bit of an extra, like five-ish dollars for somebody at the grocery store to go shop for us. But in exchange, we save so much time not going to the grocery store. I know it sounds a little bit dramatic in the sense like, oh, you write a list, you can go in and out, but we just don't have the time to do that at the moment. And when we order groceries, we both, like me and my partner, can both like choose what we want to eat and choose it ahead of time. Another thing that I feel like has been really improving my life is steaming my face, which is a new thing that I just recently discovered. But a friend of mine actually gifted me a face steamer, and I was like, I've never even heard of this. I didn't even know that I could do this to myself without having to go to like an esthetician or something. So I did that for a couple of days after coming back from San Diego, and I feel like my skin has been a lot more hydrated, and I think it's opening up your pores and then like using your skincare to really soak into your skin. It's actually very relaxing as well, though I'm not a professional. And if you are to consider doing it, make sure you do a bunch of research and ask experts on how to do it. I had this steamer like right here, like on my face, a few inches from my chin. I can like be over the steam for a little bit, but then I would have to like back up and like give my skin a break. And there are certain types of water you should put in it. So, yeah, that's been helpful. And I've just been really focusing on skincare this year in general, as I feel like I'm at the age where I just really want to take care of my skin. This is kind of like the decade where your skin can get damaged or it can really like start aging, and I think it's really important to just like take care of your health in general. But for me, I know from people in my family who have always complained about their skin, and then some people who have like really great skin, and just like the differences of how they've treated their skin, it just shows that the way that they treated their skin or took care of their skin was the result of how they felt about it. So I've always been really the type of person to wear SPF and moisturize, things like that. And I've been feeling really good about it. The last thing that has been truly improving my life is slowly build a habit of stretching every day and lifting weights. Personally, I do want to try to recomp my body, though I'm not going to really talk about that just in case there are some sensitivities around it. But lifting weights is such a great way to build strength. And so I truly just, like I said, been focusing on my health and wellness this year. According to Google, after age 30, adults typically lose 3 to 8% of their muscle mass per decade. I've also been like upping my protein and things like that, but essentially, I do want to preserve my muscle mass. And I just imagine that being beneficial as you do get older, because when you have the strength, you can do more, you're more mobile and things like that. So that is something that I have been focusing on. And what I realized is that it really doesn't take a lot of time. Maybe this isn't obvious for everybody, but lifting 5 pound dumbbells is not going to do anything if it feels easy. Like the amount of reps you do, from what I've learned in the past few weeks, is you're just like building endurance, you're not building strength. And so, what is really helpful is when you lift heavy, almost to the point of failure. And somebody who is pretty into fitness in my life said you also can do like progression lifting, which let me see what she said about that as well. just in case you're interested. Yeah, so she said progressive overload. So doing same workouts for like 2 months, but going heavier each time. So progressively heavier is going to help strength and build muscle. You could probably do your own research on that or ask people who are more well skilled in that department, but it's been interesting and it's been fun to try, and I've been feeling really good about it. Last thing under the lifestyle category I'll tell you about is some media I've been feeding my brain. So, I've been listening to audiobooks to get into reading. And when I'm recording this, it's actually a great reminder to choose a new book because there was a series that I was trying to read, but I just could not get into it. Though I see a lot of people on TikTok talk about how they liked the book. So maybe it was just because it was the audio version. I'm not sure. I just didn't really like the character relationships, and I feel like I was getting kind of confused on like what the book was even about at this point. But that book is The Coven by Harper L. Woods. It's dark academia, fantasy romance, paranormal. It's just has a lot going on. But I think I got to like half of the book, which part of me is like, ugh, do I just finish it? But I couldn't anymore. I just like physically and energetically could not finish this book. Though I did really enjoy the three books that I listened to recently, which was Brimstone by Kelly Hart. This is fae, alchemy, war, dragons, love, a bit smutty. A bit. I really enjoyed the voice actors for Brimstone on Audible. I think they're from a company called Podia, and I just really liked their voices. It felt like a bit theatrical in a way or like cinematic, but I just felt like the connection between the characters, the audio sounded really good, and I really liked that book, but the ending really messed me up. I feel like the ending just like stopped at such a good point. So I'm excited to see what the next book is that she writes for the series. Now, this one's kind of random, but kind of not because of the cultural and political climate that the world is in right now. But I was listening to the Audible original version of 1984 by George Orwell, and I believe Andrew Garfield is a voice actor in this, and a few other people, I guess, who are common actors, but it was definitely more theatrical. I felt like I was listening to a movie without seeing the visuals. And the first time I read this book was in like high school, though reading the book with like a group of kids just was not interesting to me. I probably zoned out most of the time. So I'm really glad that I listened to the book and just refresh my memory of like what happened in the book. And what's scary is how real it felt. If you don't know what 1984 is about, it kind of feels dystopian, but at the same time I feel like it could be so real. I feel like I'm not really good at explaining what books are, so I will just read what the book is about just in case you want to listen or read it for yourself. Also, I believe 1984 is a book that was banned. 1984 is a warning against totalitarianism, and it really centers on a dystopian society. And it's also a classic English literature. So there's like surveillance, which they call Big Brother, censorship, political control. There are a few characters who are challenging those rules. So, yeah, it's kind of scary, but it's interesting. And I think it's something to stay aware of. And that's all I'll say. Then the most recent book that I read before I quit The Coven is Phantom by H.D. Carlton. Now, this is a bit more of a smutty book, I would say, but essentially there's this woman who lives in this large mansion and she's constantly like writing in her diary, and she's married to this guy who gets a job with the mafia and set in like the 40s in Seattle. And one day she notices a stalker outside her window, like staring at her, and she builds a relationship with the stalker. And that's all I'll say because I don't like to give away spoilers. Again, I'm not really good at explaining books, but there's a lot of like mystery, again, like smut, but there are a lot of trigger warnings in the beginning of the book with some pretty graphic situations. So, with that being said, be careful if you do end up listening or reading that book, but I didn't mind it too much. The audio on Audible was weird because the one actor's voice was like really clear, and then the other actor's voice sounded like it was coming through a radio. But I liked the book. It had a weird ending as well. We have been watching a couple different TV shows. We've been watching Reacher, which is based off of a book series. And essentially, it's like this big ex military guy who gets involved in different investigations, and there's a lot of action and different storylines. I feel like this series is really good at keeping you watching because it's kind of like a mystery. They're trying to investigate and figure out who the bad guys are or like what's happening and things like that. And so like every episode it's like they're warming up to finding out what the deal is, like what the situation is. So I've really enjoyed that show, and then I've been watching Suddenly Amish as well. It's supposedly a reality TV show, but I'm starting to think that maybe there are paid actors. I don't know. Reddit is like, are these paid actors? But essentially, the Amish population is declining. So the bishop of a Amish community in Pennsylvania has put out an ad, I guess, for the English people who are just like not Amish people living in society to join the Amish community. And so they choose, I believe, around 6 people to go and be Amish. And then there's a day of reckoning where they decide if these people are going to stay or if those people want to stay. And it just goes to show like how different people are and like what their lives were before and then like how they become Amish over time. And there's like a lot of drama and a lot of just situations that happen that are comical, but it's interesting to see like people go try to be Amish and like what their reasonings are for wanting to become Amish. And yeah, I've always thought the Amish community is really interesting, so I really liked watching it. I do have some key takeaways from February. And the first one is that like momentum doesn't always look impressive. Sometimes it's a bit scattered and messy or slow. It doesn't always mean like you're achieving greatness every single time you keep moving forward, but it's still momentum. It's still helping you keep going. You making decisions, taking action, figuring things out as you go is momentum, whether it's fast, whether it's slow, whether it's big money, whether it's creative clarity, whatever. Another key takeaway is maintenance periods or seasons in your business is necessary. Not every month in your business has to be you building something. Some months really are about recalibration, stabilization, like keeping things good as you move forward. There's a time for building, there's a time for refinement, there's a time for growth, and there's a time for maintenance. Sometimes having that maintenance period is so healing, it's so restful, it's almost like regenerating a lot of energy that you can then put into your next season, whether that's building or growing. Another key takeaway is living your life is not a distraction from getting shit done. I believe inspiration, perspective, creativity comes from living your life. And sometimes stepping away from your business for a little bit is what is going to help you get unstuck or move forward with a decision that you have to make, a new product that you want to create, a pivot that you want to make in your business, whether it's for your positioning, messaging, content, offers, business model. You have to live your life. Constant work all the time is not life. It is not your life. So having that mix is going to make your work even better than you thought it could ever be. If you feel like February, because it was more of a shorter month, it is a shorter month, was like weird or slow or unproductive for you, maybe you can try a few of these things. First, let's start with the mindset. Maybe we can start redefining what productivity actually looks like. So instead of productivity just being how many hours you work at your laptop or how much you get done, maybe you can also start associating productivity with planning or brainstorming and thinking, research, rest, going out to dinner with your partner or with your friends, taking a walk, getting some fresh air, finding inspiration, because productivity isn't just like the visible, tangible output that you put into your business or into your work. If things feel overwhelming and you have a lot of moving parts, it's time to simplify. It doesn't mean that you have to completely quit. It doesn't mean that you failed. It doesn't mean that you can never do what's on your list ever again. But simplification is going to help you organize your priorities and help you actually build that momentum and progress forward instead of constantly being scattered and chaotic in between all of the things that you want to do. Yourself, I'm quitting this unless it doesn't feel aligned anymore. Just say, it's just not time to focus on this right now. I'm going to put it over here and I'll look at that again once I'm ready. I hope this episode was insightful, helpful, inspirational, and you got something out of it. Thanks for watching or listening. I'll see you in the next one.